After teaching the bandits a lesson, Azadin and his group continued their journey, sitting on the sheep as they ambled along the road. The silence stretched until Mid-I suddenly broke it. At first, I thought you were just going easy on them, so I was surprised. But I guess it's not a bad tactic. We even retrieved all their weapons. Azadin glanced back at them briefly, their sheep trailing behind his, before turning his gaze forward again. It's hard for someone to understand others without having been in the same position, he said. Losing an eye has bigger consequences than you'd think. The people they would have victimized in their raids are now the ones they fear. I'm sure it's a good opportunity for them to repent for their past actions. Ishmael, still perplexed, furrowed his brow. An opportunity to repent. You spared them and even gave them a chance to cleanse their souls. Azadin suddenly jumped off his sheep and began walking, prompting Mid-I and Ishmael to follow. As they caught up, Azadin said, although, that conversation is bothering me. Ishmael tilted his head. What conversation? The bandits mentioned that Margrave Kazel is searching for a copy of the Book of the Divine King, Azadin replied. Ishmael considered this for a moment before responding, but Margrave Kazel lost the succession fight. Do you think he's trying to climb the ranks by using the book to gain magical power? Azadin's expression darkened. A political figure determined to obtain power, that's dangerous. Reaching up to his face, Azadin began to remove his mask. I'll have to take off this mask. It marks me as a herald, and we'll need to stay cautious until we're out of Margrave Kazel's territory. As the mask came off, both Ishmael and Mid-I froze, staring in shock. Azadin's face revealed a startling truth. He had no eyes. They stood in stunned silence, unable to look away. Unfazed by their reaction, Azadin donned a cloak to hide his uniform, transforming his appearance into that of an ordinary traveler. Ishmael broke the silence. But, you didn't seem to struggle at all, despite being unable to see. How? Azadin shrugged. I don't know either. Ever since I was born, I've just been able to see without eyes. Mid-I stepped closer, her gaze fixed on his face. Azadin, now visibly annoyed, asked, what is it? Speak your mind if you have something to say. Mid-I hesitated for a moment before replying, you look better if I imagine you were injured. Azadin blinked, genuinely taken aback. What? It's like, you were really handsome, but then you suffered an unfortunate accident where you lost your eyes, Mid-I explained. Honestly, scars like this are better than a hot face with ugly eyes. Azadin sighed, petting one of the sheep absent-mindedly. You're saying the same thing as the one who gave me this scar. Curious, Mid-I asked, who was it? It was a rail, Azadin replied. She said it was strange for me not to have what should be there. She thought it was better to imagine there were once eyes in those empty sockets, so she scarred my face. She sliced through it, saying it would improve the look. Azadin began walking again, his voice steady. Well, thanks to that, I was able to pretend I'm blind. It wasn't a problem when I was alone, but... Mid-I interrupted, her tone suddenly enthusiastic. Then we just need to keep pretending you're blind, right? Without breaking stride, Azadin dismissed her suggestion. It's fine. They walked for the rest of the day. By evening, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, they reached the outskirts of a town. From a distance, they saw a long line of people waiting to enter, with soldiers carefully inspecting each and every traveler. As they approached the long line, Ishmael squinted toward the gates and remarked, I can see the gates, but the line's rough. Azadin nodded slightly. Pretty long. It's been a while since I was last here at the gateway to the East Village. Mid-I chimed in. It's also the village where the Imperial Road begins. What do you think? Isn't it a pretty good starting point for our journey? Azadin glanced at her and replied sharply, shut it. I'm a pilgrim on a solo pilgrimage, and you two are just kids who happened to join me. As they waited, the group observed the soldiers stationed at the gate. They were searching travelers thoroughly, rifling through belongings, and even taking what they pleased. Azadin's eyes narrowed as he thought to himself, they're looking for something. If they're being this thorough, then... His thoughts were interrupted by an elderly man standing nearby. Hey, can't you see what's going on? The man asked. Azadin turned toward him and replied with a calm demeanor, no. These two are orphans on a pilgrimage with me. The old man gave them a sympathetic look. Goodness, it must be hard. Azadin shook his head. Not at all. Although, what's going on here? The man leaned in, his voice lowering slightly. Have you not heard the rumors? There are copies of the Book of the Divine King popping up everywhere. Feigning ignorance, Azadin tilted his head and asked, the Book of the Divine King? The old man spread his arms wide for emphasis as he explained, yes. The rumors say that some Herald Clan member stole the book and made copies. These copies are appearing all over the world. Margrave Kazel's men are hunting for them like rabid dogs. What a mess. Tisk. Azadin gave a faint smile. So, there's more than just one loser like that, huh? The old man looked puzzled, but Azadin brushed it off with, nothing. As the old man wandered off, Azadin's hand grazed the page of the divine book he had found earlier. His thoughts darkened. That's not good. This is going to be a bit annoying to deal with. Suddenly, a commotion broke out in the line. A man was pleading with a soldier. I need that money to feed my family. Aren't you looking for the book of the divine king? So why are you taking my money? The soldier sneered and punched the man in the face, sending him sprawling to the ground. Laughing, he said, a grimoire can take many forms and shapes. Who knows if this is a grimoire, disguised as money? We'll inspect it real close and return it to you later if it's not the book. The man's young daughter rushed forward, trying to stop the soldiers. One of them snarled, you little. Don't you know that talking back means you're asking for a beating? Her father grabbed her, pulling her away protectively. Stop it. You're threatening a young child. This is violence. The soldier punched him in the stomach, leaving him gasping for air. Shut up, he barked, then spat venomously, raise your child better, got it? Mid-Am clenched her fists, anger flashing across her face. Should we fight them? She whispered to Azadin. Azadin raised a hand, his voice calm but firm. Wait. Just then, a man came running up to the soldiers and whispered something urgently in their leader's ear. The soldier's expression instantly changed, his face draining of color. What? He stammered, his voice laced with fear. Azadin's keen ears picked up the faint whisper, carried by the wind. His expression darkened as he observed the soldiers hastily retreating behind the gates, abandoning their posts. The crowd began murmuring in confusion, questions bubbling up among the travelers. What's going on? One man asked. Why are they packing up? Another wondered aloud. Azadin broke the tension, his voice low and steady. An ogre was spotted nearby. The murmurs turned into gasps of fear as the news spread through the line. A man in the crowd shouted in disbelief, sorry? What? Azadin replied calmly, I heard what they said, because I have good hearing. Panic began spreading through the people as another voice cried out, they closed the gates? The realization sent waves of horror through the crowd. People began shouting, banging on the gates in desperation. Hey, open the gates. Let's talk. Wait. The scene shifted to an army camp. A silver-haired man sat casually on the step of a carriage, observing his soldiers. You're sure you locked the gates, right? He asked, his tone sharp but indifferent. His identity was soon revealed, Tarkiev, the bastard child of Margrave Kazel. Perhaps Snake Mommy's son, what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. One of the soldiers stepped forward and replied, yes, sir, we made sure. Tarkiev nodded with satisfaction. Then Tarkiev said, we've confirmed that there are no copies of the Book of the Divine King here, so let's just get out of here with the things we took. Another soldier hurriedly approached from the side of the carriage, clearly nervous. Sir Tarkiev, what should we do? Without much care, Tarkiev waved him off. Fend off the ogre and any other monsters that get close. You've been trained sufficiently to handle them. The soldier, clearly discontented, thought to himself, you only trained us for one day. Hesitating, he spoke up, then, at least let the people outside come in. I'll command the defense here. Tarkiev laughed dismissively, his silver hair gleaming in the firelight. Ha, you're not even a knight. What can you do? The soldier clenched his fists and thought bitterly, I don't want to hear that from the knight who's running away right now. Amused, Tarkiev finally said, all right, I'll leave it to you then. Is that good enough? Let's go now. With that, Tarkiev climbed into his carriage and departed with his troops and their plunder, leaving the soldier standing behind to face the threat. As the ground began to tremble beneath him, the soldier's thoughts turned grim. The ground, it's shaking. Meanwhile, the bandit who had been captured by the ogre peeked out from the basket he was trapped in, his face pale with terror. Where are we headed? Are we going to be eaten by the monsters? I don't want to die. I don't want to die, he thought, his heart racing. Through the wooden slats of the basket, he caught a glimpse of the terrifying scene, the ogre lumbering toward the town, a horde of goblins following closely behind. Their high-pitched chants sent shivers down his spine. Meat, 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 the goblins chanted, their eyes gleaming with hunger. Far from the chaos, the old man who had spoken to Azadin earlier stood watch from a tower. He gazed toward the advancing group and muttered ominously, it's coming.